There's a hope that's waiting for you in the dark. You should know you're beautiful just the way you are. You don't have to change a thing, the world can change its heart. No scars, see you're beautiful. We're stars and we're beautiful.
Good morning, Grace and Grit. Welcome back, Gritters, and welcome to any new viewers who found our channel. Thank you for being here. This is the space where we talk about the real stuff, the messy stuff, the fun stuff, the beautiful stuff, the unspoken stuff, the stuff that we don't always want to think about, but it is there. We talk about the real things here. So with that said, grab your coffee or your tea and let's get started. Today, we're going to talk about when we start choosing ourselves and how everything shifts. And it starts with pressure. And this pressure, sometimes it just looks like you handling life, showing up, getting things done, being there for people. And from the outside, it looks like strength. But internally, it can feel like you don't have a moment where you're not needed. Like every part of you is being pulled in a different direction. You're stretched thin. But you're expected to hold it all together anyway. How did we step into that role? Somewhere along the way, you became the one people rely on. The one who keeps it together, figures it out, shows up no matter what. Maybe it didn't happen overnight. Maybe it comes from how you were raised. Maybe it comes from you had to grow up faster than you should have. Maybe you learned early on that being dependable is how you stayed safe or how you stayed valued. Or maybe it's because you love so fiercely that without recognizing it, people actually take advantage of your love and your care and your worries. Nevertheless, you found yourself in that role and you've stayed there, even when it got heavy, even when it stopped feeling natural. You've stayed there when it stopped feeling like a choice. At first, being that person can feel like something to be proud of. You're strong, you're capable, people trust you. But over time, it does stop feeling like a choice, and it can start feeling like an expectation. Because now you don't just show up because you want to, you show up because you feel like you have to. And if you don't, well, you feel like something may fall apart. And to be honest, it truly might. Or someone may be disappointed. Something may not get handled. So you keep going, even when you're tired, even when you're overwhelmed, and even when a part of you is quietly and secretly asking for a break. We don't talk about the weight that carries. And the weight of that, like many things, it doesn't look dramatic. It's quiet and subtle. It's the constant mental load. Remembering everything, thinking ahead, holding space for people. It's answering messages when you just simply don't have the energy. It's being present in that moment for someone else when your mind is exhausted. It's pushing through to be there when your body It's just asking you to slow down. And after a while, you may not even realize how much you're carrying. Because this is your normal. Sometimes there's a moment where something shifts and you notice you're more irritable than usual. You feel drained without a clear reason. And you don't have the same patience that you used to have. Things that never bothered you before, they bother you now and they feel heavy. You really just can't explain why until you realize you've been pouring from a place that hasn't been filled in a long time. But you are never meant to be everything to everyone. That role, oh, it sounds strong on the surface, but it's not sustainable. Because no matter how much you give, there will always be more. More needs, more expectations, more things pulling at you. And if you don't recognize your limits, you'll keep crossing them. This is where things could change. This is where things could shift. Not externally at first, but internally. You start noticing what drains you, what feels forced, what feels heavy, what you're doing out of obligation instead of intention. And that awareness, it can feel uncomfortable because now you can see it. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And that's when you take a really hard step backwards, not in a way you're thinking. Stepping back sounds simple, but it's not. Because stepping back means doing less, saying no, not being available the way you used to be. And that can feel wrong and betraying at first, especially if people are used to that version of you, the one that always shows up, that never says no. But what you have to understand is just because people are used to something doesn't mean it's healthy for you to continue it. So once you see, you'll start asking yourself different questions. Not, what does everyone need from me? But you'll ask yourself, what can I actually carry without losing myself? How can I help without giving everything? And that question can change everything. Because now you're not operating from pressure. You're operating from awareness. And that's a different kind of strength. A quieter strength. A strength that will be misunderstood and seen as something else. Not a loud, overextending, always available on kind, but a quieter strength. A kind that says, I can care without carrying everything. I can show up without overgiving. I can be present without losing myself in the process. If you've been feeling that weight, that quiet exhaustion, that sense of always being needed, this might be the moment where something starts to shift. Not all at once, and definitely not perfectly, but enough that you can notice, and that you don't have to be everything to everyone anymore. And once you start realizing that, once you start pulling back and choosing differently, you'll see that other things begin to happen as well. Your relationships will start to shift. Not always in obvious ways, sometimes in ways you don't even fully understand. And that will lead into something that can feel just as heavy. That's when you're going to see that you are outgrowing people. And outgrowing people, it is one of those things that we definitely don't talk about enough because it's not always clear. Sometimes it just feels like something isn't the same anymore, and you're not even really sure when it changed. Things start feeling different, and you may notice it in small ways, like conversations that don't feel the same, connections that feel off, and how the energy just feels different. And when you're in that place where you feel like you have to be everything to everyone, we tend to ignore those shifts. We tell ourselves, "Oh, it's just a phase." We're overthinking it. So we keep showing up. We keep doing, even when it doesn't feel natural anymore. Because there's history there. Maybe family. Maybe a long-term friend. Maybe someone you care about deeply. There could be love. There could be care. And walking away from that, or even just creating distance, that doesn't feel easy. It feels wrong. It feels like you're choosing yourself over your loved ones. So you stay, even when something in you knows that you've outgrown that. And then the guilt shows up, and you start questioning yourself. Why am I changing too much? Am I pulling away? Am I becoming cold? Do I just not care anymore? How can I be such a horrible person? That guilt, that can keep you stuck longer than you need to be. Because you don't want to be the person that walks away. You don't want to hurt anyone. You don't want to let anyone down. And you don't want to feel like you've changed in a negative way. But there's something important to understand. Because becoming cold and becoming aware, they are not the same thing. Becoming cold, that's shutting down. That's not caring. Becoming aware is simply recognizing what no longer aligns. And it's understanding your own capacity, your own energy, and your own boundaries. Distance doesn't have to look like cutting people off all the time. Sometimes it's just simply less access, less emotional investment, more intentional presence. Because it matters. Now you're no longer overextending to maintain something that doesn't feel right. You don't have to harden yourself to grow. You don't have to become guarded to protect your peace. You can still be kind, respectful, caring, without being as available as you once were. That's not cold. That's growth. Not every relationship is meant to grow with you. Some people were a part of a version of you that you are no longer in. That doesn't make the relationship bad. It just means that it doesn't fit the same way anymore. Outgrowing people, setting limits, knowing your own energy, strength, and capacity doesn't mean that you've stopped caring. It doesn't mean that you have become hard in your heart or distant. It just means that you have simply become honest about who you are. And sometimes that honesty can create space, not out of bitterness, but out of alignment. And that kind of space, it is not something to feel guilty about. It's something to respect. Today, I want to encourage you to take a look at yourself and ask yourself honestly, what do I need? What do I need to be the best that I can be? Do I need time to myself? Do I need more time with my family versus all of my other obligations? Do I need to take a look at my priority list because they could have changed? What was important the last season you were in may not be important this season. There's a saying, if you say you can't learn anything, then you'll never learn anything again. I'm not sure if that's the correct saying, but my husband always says, if you act like you know everything, you'll never learn anything. That might be the saying. If you act like you're always fine, then you're never going to know what's wrong. There's nothing wrong with you as a person, but it's the same way as if we go to the doctor. We may feel sluggish and not know why. We go to the doctor, it's a simple fix. So let's practice our own mental health check-ins with ourselves. Let's ask ourselves, what do you need this week? What do I need? Do I need a lighter load? Do I need time in between? This time of the year can be crazy, especially if you have kids, whether they are littles or they're teenagers. It doesn't slow down. It just becomes different things. If you have family that depends on you, if you have friends that depend on you, there's so many different dynamics of relationships in our lives that can be healthy and can be priorities. But sometimes when the seasons shift, now they're no longer a priority, but because we treat them as one, they become unhealthy to ourselves. So this is not saying, hey, people are bad, you got to get rid of them. That's not what this is. This is about recognizing what's important for ourselves right now in this season that we're in. What have we outgrown? What in our life should be able to change so that we can have more peace, so that we can have more energy, so that we can have more capacity for the things that are our priorities in this season? I want to encourage everybody to just have 10 or 15 minutes today or even this week that is just for you. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for supporting my channel and for listening. And I will see you guys next time.
There's a hope.